Alright guys, it's Charbox Reviews, coming at you guys with The Walking Dead, Season 8, Episode 3, Review. Alright, so this episode was pretty good. Still, consistent with the all-out war that's going on right now. And we were told, going in, right, that these first 4 episodes were going to be pretty, action-based, a lot of stuff going on, some character deaths as well, which I don't really see yet. I mean, yeah, we had one this episode that wasn't too big, but we did have one this episode for sure. So I'm thinking maybe next episode we're going to see a pretty big death. Maybe. This one, probably the least favorite episode of mine so far with the first 3. This one's titled Monsters, and this is, kind of referring to the whole, Jesus taking these saviors, that surrender. They're kind of monsters, I guess. That's the word Gregory uses at one point, so I like that. I just love The Walking Dead, when I guess most shows do this, but The Walking Dead especially, the titles do have something to do with, the episodes for sure. Like Mercy, definitely a theme in the first episode. The Damned, definitely, and in Monsters in this one too. So, I like that. So I thought it was a good episode, well-rounded. There was quite a couple of things that were just like, nitpicking, but, I kind of had to bring it up. So I'll get to that, of course, with my ratings, some thoughts, and a favorite character, of course, at the end. But yeah, first I'm doing a little bit of a recap here. This one shouldn't be too long. I just watched the episode, like, literally, I think 10 minutes ago it ended. So I don't know. Are you guys going to check out Ride with Norman Reedus? I think I am. I checked out, I think, 2 episodes in season 1, and I just got totally I was totally off it. I found the first episode interesting, but, like, I felt like they put all the money or something like that, or all the, ideas they had into that one, and then episode 2 just, like, fell, like, in nosedive. But anyways, that's my opinion. But yeah, I think I'm going to check it out and make a review for it, so if you guys do tune into that, please, it should be, by the time this is up, a little bit after this, there should be a video on the channel for it, because I'm going to try to make it right after this one. So, yeah. Anyways, like tomorrow after this one. So, anyways, back to The Walking Dead, but, I will talk about that a little bit later. So, anyways, let's begin into this recap here, episode 3. So, we come back with Morales talking to Rick. So these are not in chronological order the way I'm going to talk about this. I'm just talking about different storylines here and then kind of intertwining them towards the end of the episode. So here, Morales talking to Rick. Very great scene. Great dialogue, very nostalgic, right? And this is how I felt, really nostalgic. I mean, just hearing them talk about Atlanta and the old days, and Rick bringing up Lori and Shane and Andrea. I mean, those 3 were cornerstones in the show, the first 3 seasons at least, and they're all gone, right? You kind of forget that at times when you're watching, and it's really cool that they bring that back, and they kind of did that with Morales. He was kind of the embodiment of, Rick's past, and I thought it was honestly a very good scene, probably one of the best scenes in the episode, and Morales, I thought, spoke, the truth, man. Someone, finally said it, and I haven't really been thinking of this much, but now that Morales brings it up, I think it's so true. He says, I'm just the luckier one that I have the gun to you right now, right? And he says, if you had the gun, I'd be brains, spilled out on the floor by now. I think those are his words. And it's so true. I mean, I totally can see that. I think Rick would have shot him right away, and then he would have done what Rick always does, and, like, noticed him after he's dead or just about to be dead, taking his last breaths, and be like, oh, you're Morales? Like, I just feel like that would have been what Rick would have done. So I thought Morales, it's very truthful in that. And then he also says, Officer Friendly died along the way, right? And I thought that was so true as well. I mean, that, because Rick says Shane, Lori, and Andrea died, and he said, so did Officer Friendly as well. And that's so true. I mean, Rick used to be this leader, this friendly guy, you could approach it, all that, and now he's kind of a ruthless killer, out for blood, obviously through the war, but just in general, too, he's totally changed. And I think that's a really great thing to notice as well. Sometimes we forget that about our main protagonist. And honestly, in this show, I mean, Rick is kind of on the line of an anti-hero sort of thing as well. I mean, yeah, he's fighting for, the side of the survivors, the side that we're cheering on. But you also got to think of what stuff he's doing here, to some, innocent people, I guess, right? But he does have some mercy as well, though, to Negan's lieutenants in the first episode. So that's definitely to be said as well. Then we learn a little bit about Morales too, what happened to him. His family died. He was kind of a broken man, he was kind of down. And then the Saviors found him and brought him back. That's why he's now Negan, just like all the other guys, So, and I don't think he was actually, a lot of people were talking about this week about how, oh, they brought him back good. He's a high up in Negan's, pecking order, sorry. And I don't think that was the case. I think he was just living there in this compound, and I kind of fell, I fell for that too. But no, I don't think he was that high. I just think that he was, working for Negan. He's Negan like everyone else. So then the tensions are rising here. Very suspenseful scene. Things are building up, and they're kind of just talking back and forth. But you see Morales is kind of, slowly as each, second goes by, he's slowly starting to realize, and I kind of got the impression that he's not going to kill Rick, right? It's just like, he's not going to do it. And then out of nowhere, Daryl just shoots Morales in the head with his crossbow and just kills him instantly, just like that. And it's crazy, right? I mean, they're having this conversation, and even, I had, emotion for Morales. Daryl shoots him. I was actually, shook. I was like, whoa, damn, right? And Rick's a little upset, of course, at first. He says, do you know who that was? And you see his, facial expression. He's like, what are you doing? And, Daryl says, yeah, I know who it is, but it doesn't matter. Which is crazy, right? I mean, that's ruthless. Because Daryl knew him probably just as well as Rick there in Atlanta, and just shoots him, no questions asked, right in the back of the head, and kills him, or I guess maybe in the front, when Morales turned around. So Morales is dead. I mean, you bring him back for a good 5-6 minutes and he's gone. So I don't know how I feel about that. I'll get to that a little bit later. But yeah, so basically Rick then goes onward with Daryl. They, try to sweep through the building a little bit more, but then they come across Morales, the guys that he called to come get them in the place. So they take out them, that fire extinguisher scene that Rick sets off. They seem like they're trapped. And of course, there's always a way out. Glenn under the dumpster, of course. But no, there's no dumpster in this one, just a fire extinguisher. And they were able to do that and kill the Saviors. And were they throwing them down the elevator shaft? I think that's what was happening, but I was a little confused on that one. But I think that's what they did. That's how they killed them. And yeah, that was a great scene, to see Daryl and Rick together fighting. It was honestly awesome. I mean, it's kind of, you kind of get the chills. You're a big fan. Daryl and Rick fighting together is pretty amazing after what they've gone through the last 2 seasons. So, especially Daryl. So, pretty crazy stuff there. And then later on, they find the Savior behind the tree. Rick, says there's not much, worth, there's not much stuff worth anything in this world except a man's word. He gives him his word that if he comes out, gives him information that they'll give him a car and that he can leave, he can be free. And yeah, he ends up telling them info that the guns are now at Gavin's and not at that outpost that they attacked. And then Daryl just shoots him in the head, out of nowhere. So, I mean, just another, ruthless kill that was not really needed. I mean, yeah, they could have just let him go. I don't think they could have given him a car. I think that was a little bit too much, but they could have let him go. Anyways, I don't know. So, kind of a Daryl versus Rick sort of feeling here we're getting, right? Because Rick is a little bit more grounded. He's a little bit more, morality stuff right now. And Daryl, he's just ruthless, man. All the stuff that they did to him, especially, beginning of season 7 there. And I don't blame him. I mean, and you saw him at the end of season 7, this is the first half, pounding Fat Joey. I mean, this guy's out for blood, and he's going to do anything he can to win this war. And Rick is doing the same, but not quite to that extent. So I think we're going to see more of that confrontation a little bit later on. So then Jesus and Morgan are talking. Beside the highway there when all the Saviors are being led with them on the ropes, which is a smart idea because they can't really run, because if one runs, then they all fall over, so they're all in a line. That was a smart idea by them especially. And Jesus says, we don't execute. He says we kill and stuff like that. I do, I have, you do, you have, but we don't execute. And then Morgan says, I do. And I think that's so true. I mean, he did that last episode, right? He does execute, people, and I think that was a really cool line there, or not cool, but impactful. And then they take the Saviors down the road a little bit, and they're on their way to the hilltop, I guess, right? Because Jesus wants to take them there, see what Maggie wants to do with them. And then this long-haired Savior, man, I don't know his name, but he needs to die. Like, it's been too long already. He's talking shit to Morgan again, trying to get his goat, trying to piss him off a little bit more, mentioning Benjamin again. And I'm just thinking, like, kill this man. Like, Morgan, just turn around and shoot this man in the head. No one's going to care. And again, he turns around with the gun, tries to shoot him, and all of a sudden, the walkers come tumbling down this hill beside them. Basically frenzy breaks out. I mean, these walkers, start attacking these Saviors that are tied up. They can't really do anything, which is, I mean, yeah, you hate the Saviors, but it's pretty hard to watch, right? I mean, they can't really do anything. They're tied up, and these walkers, especially the one guy, just got his head eaten off. Like, that's, obviously pretty gruesome. But yeah, so basically, frenzy breaks out, and some of the Saviors escape with this long-haired Savior guy. He kind of helps them, and Morgan goes after them. I love this part. Honestly, I would have loved to see Morgan shoot all of them dead in a line. Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, I that makes me sound a little bit morbid, but at this point, Saviors, we can't keep them alive. I mean, I do not agree with Jesus at all at this point. I think that we need to be ruthless, and, to take them out, you got to do what they do. You can't really, play peaceful with this one. But anyways, Morgan's able to shoot one dead, and then is about to shoot the others. I mean, it was really close. They were all in a line there, and it could have been like, a few seconds and they would have all been dead, but Jesus stops him just in time, and then we see the fight scene. So we saw this in the trailer for this season, released at Comic-Con, and people were trying to speculate, was this just a practice out in the woods? What were they fighting about? And we finally saw this episode, and I thought it was probably one of the best scenes of the episode, if not the best. And yeah, so they get into a fight. Thought it was great hand-to-hand combat from these two guys who don't even really use guns. I mean, Morgan had a stick. Jesus didn't have anything, and Jesus was basically playing defensive all the time. He wasn't really attacking Morgan till the end. He was getting a little bit, mad. He was starting to get hit by Morgan, so he kind of retaliated. It ended up being a good fight, and in the end, Jesus just kept hitting Morgan away and getting him down. Morgan did not give up, and then eventually he actually gets a spear to Jesus' neck. Could have killed him right there instantly, which obviously that would have been devastating for Morgan to do. And then we see Morgan kind of snap out of it, and he doesn't really know what's going on all of a sudden. And I'm like, is Clear back? I mean, like, fans obviously know what that means, and I'm like, okay, maybe, right? And Morgan says, I may not be right about this. I can't do this. And then Tara says he is right, and I think that's a good point too. And Morgan just leaves. He just walks away in the forest. So I don't know when we'll see him again. Probably the next couple episodes. And maybe he'll make his way back. So I don't know. Yeah, definitely some interesting stuff there. Great scene with Jesus and Morgan fighting. And yeah, it's starting to look like Morgan's kind of getting back to that old self, the Clear and Here's Not Here and stuff, where he goes kind of crazy, ape shit, and starts killing people randomly. So for sure. So we see Aaron helps Eric to a tree. We just saw Aaron helping off Eric last episode at the very end. I might confuse these names; they're too similar. But Eric then encourages him to go, to come back for him later and go back to the fight. Says they need him. Very true, right? I mean, Aaron does need to go back. Very emotional scene here. This is probably the most emotional scene of the whole episode. I mean, yeah. I mean, what a relationship Aaron and Eric have had. We got introduced to them season 5, end of season 5, and wow, I mean, this is crazy. I mean, yeah, Eric hasn't been in that much of the show, even though he's been, introduced in the second half of season 5, but very emotional scene for both of them. Really, really great scene to see there. And Aaron reluctantly goes back. He leaves Eric there. And I think he thought all the way through that he was going to come back and see him. And yeah, sadly, towards the end of the episode, he goes back to the tree, sees the blood spot there still in the tree, and then finds Eric, as a walker, and sees him in the distance walking away. And obviously he's devastated. It's really heartbreaking for him. And then the one guy, I don't know his name, but he comes and says, that's not him. and I thought that was really good too. I mean, you gotta remember that, right? I mean, that's not him anymore, right? It's a Walker. Eric is gone, and he kind of, gets Aaron to go back with him, because that wouldn't have been good. I mean, if Aaron went to go either kill Eric the Walker or do something, I feel like he would have died because there's a lot of walkers there in that field. So good on this guy to stop Aaron and kind of bring him back, even though, I mean, Aaron's devastated at this point, and, really just broken. So then a little bit after, Aaron takes this baby Gracie from Rick back to the hilltop. And I mean, yeah, I thought this was good. I mean, I thought this was good for Aaron to have, this baby now, and I don't know. I don't know how he's gonna cope with losing Eric. He was probably his closest guy in his life, and partner. And yeah, so I hope this baby will kind of help him maybe a little bit, and I feel like he needs it though. And yeah, and then of course the group conquers that outpost completely. I mean, great job for them, right? First outpost done. Although they got the satellite one too last week, so 2 are down now already, and the sanctuary is pretty much out of functioning for now as well. So great stuff there, conquering that outpost as well. So then we see Maggie lets Gregory back into the hilltop. That was just a funny scene. I mean, Gregory's just an idiot. I mean, but good on Maggie to let him back in. I think, he's not really going to do any harm, as we saw. He even went to the Saviors and was part of their plan, and he did nothing. Like, he did nothing for them, right? I mean, no one followed him. So I think he's just kind of a lost guy. What is he going to do? You may as well let him back just for a good laugh every once in a while. But anyways, yeah, so he's let back in, and then, of course, at the very end of the episode, then we see Jesus and the group arrive with the Saviors that, have been captured on the ropes there, and Jesus asks what Maggie wants to do with them, and then Gregory, says they're monsters, they need to be killed. What are we doing? They can't stay here. And obviously, Maggie kind of shoos him away, but I think Gregory has a point. Even though he's an asshole, dirtbag, whatever you want to call him, at this point, I think he has a point here, and I think that they should not let these Saviors in the hilltop. I think something bad is going to happen, and I think they've learned their lesson before this, and they just can't get with the program. So, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens next episode, but they kind of leave it off that Maggie's kind of contemplating this, so we'll have to see next week what she decides. I feel like she's going to decide to let them stay there, which I think is a bad decision. But anyways, yeah, so that was a good scene there. Leaving some suspense for next week for sure. So we get to the whole part with the kingdom. And this was probably, again, probably one of my favorite, parts of the episode. It was a pretty big part, to be honest. Aside from the Rick and Daryl, sort of that group claiming that outpost. Really resilient, right? We see this group, just really coming together and working as a team. Ezekiel showing why he's such a great leader. And I mean, this guy, he is just totally, fake it till you make it. I love that last episode. It's so true for Ezekiel. And I just feel like he's so amazing at doing it. I mean, he's the best faker, of them all. But yeah, so he basically, he gets his people to fight these guys, even though they know they're coming, and they devise this plan. Thought it was great. They fake out the Saviors, they go in, they surrender, and then all of a sudden they have a bunch of guys hiding under the bushes, and they shoot them all down completely. All of them killed and shot. I mean, that just a crazy way of doing it there, faking them out completely. And Ezekiel says some key lines here as well. He says, they might have the numbers, but we have the strategy. And that's so true, right? That's sort of the kingdom's philosophy, right? I mean, there's the smart people. They know what to do. They know how to fight, even though they may not have the numbers and the strength, but they get things done. And I thought, that's a very important thing because they use it again later in the episode as well, where they use that strategy, even though they don't necessarily have the numbers or the strength. So I thought that was great as well. And then they also bombard the next group of Saviors, too. They know exactly where they are coming from, so they hide under the fences there. They wait until they're going out, and then they, open fire on them. They kill them all again. So they're really successful here. They killed two pretty big groups of Saviors at this point. And they just killed them all pretty easily. They just mow them down completely, right? And I mean, it's pretty gruesome, to be honest, seeing all these guys die. But yeah, I mean, that's just how war is, I guess. And then another really important thing is Ezekiel said, we will not lose one of our ranks. Not one of our ranks. I mean, not one person. And they don't lose one person, right? It all in that whole scene. And he says he smiles to Carol. He's so emotional too, and he said, not one. We did not lose one, and it's so true, right? I mean, they use that strategy, and that's how they end up doing it. So really great there. I thought that quote was very key. But then, of course, at the very, very end of the episode, I'm talking like last minute here, we got a really big suspenseful scene there. I didn't expect that at all. Very surprising. Good twist. And all of a sudden, Ezekiel, they kind of mow down these saviors. And then he looks up in the tower at the compound that they're about to go in and sweep. And he sees, I think it was like a laser pointer, right? A red, dot or something like that. And, he yells out scatter, but it's not quick enough. And they basically get shot at by snipers from that tower. Just absolutely lit up. I mean, by bullets. We see two people die right in front of his, kind of from Ezekiel's perspective. So two Kingdomers, or two of those people from that group, are dead. And then a bunch of guys just jump on Ezekiel to keep him safe, which is, again, great to see. I mean, that's just the kingdom sort of way, right? You protect the king. And I thought that was very heroic for them to do that. So it looks like Ezekiel's going to be fine in this. Carol is also going to be fine because she left, I think, a couple minutes before that happened, because she said, I'm going to go look around, see what's going on. So I think we may have a Carol no sanctuary moment again here, where she kind of launches something and saves everyone. I think that's what we're going to see. So that's going to be great again. I love those scenes. And yeah, so they basically get lit up. Great mystery to end the episode, for sure. I mean, wow, right? A great twist. I didn't see that coming. It looked like all happy, they were taking them all out. They didn't lose one person, and then all of a sudden, two people die at least, and I'm guessing there's going to be way more than that. So we'll have to see. But for now, I think Ezekiel is safe, and the main guys are safe. I'm not sure if we saw Jerry jump on Ezekiel, or maybe it was another guy. I'm not totally sure there. But the people who jumped on him may even, suffer some injuries or even death for themselves. One thing that's kind of underlying here is the survivors, or the protagonist group, underestimating the saviors again and again. I mean, we saw this theme first when Rick and them, attacked the satellite station. They thought they killed all the saviors. They thought they killed Negan. And, that was just a fraction of the saviors in total. And then, they lose Abraham and Glenn because of that. So, and then they do it again in season 7. They still don't know how big the saviors are. And then they do it again here. They totally underestimate them. They think, oh, we got all of them. We can relax now. They didn't even think that there'd be more in the compound. I don't know. Just becomes a little bit repetitive for me. And I think it's just, how do you still do it after all this time? I don't know. You gotta give them more credit. I mean, these saviors, they are way more people than you do. So, where's the thinking on this? But anyways, that's just sort of a nitpick there, for me. But anyways, now I get to my rating, favorite character, and some overall thoughts of the episode. So in terms of a rating for this one, I'm going to give it a 4.4 out of 5. So the lowest so far out of the 3, and like I said, it was probably my least favorite episode so far of this season. But again, that's only 3 episodes, and it was a good episode for sure. Just last episode was very good. I mean, blew it out of the water. I did not expect that last episode. I expected something like that for episode 1, but episode 2, they just came out, blew the hinges, the door off the hinges there. And, this episode kind of, fell down a little bit. And again, I kind of, blame myself for going with high expectations. So, yeah, I don't know. It just happens with me with this show because I love it so much, right? Yeah. Why bring Morales back is my question. I mean, yeah, added to nostalgia. I thought it was, some good lines that Morales said, very true, getting us to think more about Rick and, kind of bring up some things that maybe a lot of people don't think about, but very true. I mean, Officer Friendly did die a long time ago, and he's a different person now. So yeah, I get that aspect, but he's literally alive for 5 or 6 minutes, and everyone's making a big deal about him coming back. AMC, The Walking Dead, that's all they advertise. Morales is back and all this. Everyone talked about it. They build him up to be look like a pretty high general in Negan's system, and Daryl just shoots him dead, in the first 5 minutes of the show. So I don't know. I don't know how I felt about that. I didn't. I felt like, why bring him back? That could have been someone else. That could have been a different savior guy who just came and did that. So I don't know. I feel like it was for, purposes of, the whole episode 100 sort of thing. And they're still having parts of that episode 100 sort of nostalgia still playing out, with other things too in this, even till episode 3 now, even though episode 100 was episode 1. So yeah, I mean, I get that part, but I don't know. I'm kind of mad that he was killed. I felt like maybe even they could have, converted him, and he would have maybe been a part of the survivors. That would have been cool. But I guess not. So, yeah, like I said, underestimating stuff. I already talked about that, but yeah, it's just getting old at this point for me. Could be a better build up for Eric's death, I feel. Last episode was like the first time we saw him, or even, got any sympathy for him in a while. I mean, I think we saw him in episode 1 too, but I mean, season 7, he was basically non-existent. Season 6, I think we saw a little bit of him, but like, I don't know. I feel like they could have built this up better. Usually when Walking Dead, when a character's about to die, you kind of know, you kind of feel it, especially, Denise, that's a great example. They focused on her, I think, like, the episode before and the episode she died in, like, so much, way more than any other episode, to build up that emotion, so that we would actually feel that death, that we would be, hurt from that, right, and feel loss. And I just feel like they didn't do that well enough for Eric. And again, yeah, maybe it's just because Eric, I wouldn't say he's not one of my favorite characters, but like we haven't seen much of him, so he can't really be, right. So yeah, I don't know. They could have built that up better, but still an emotional death, and definitely I think we're gonna see that, the aftermath of that play out with Aaron for sure, right. I think it's gonna affect him for a while. And again, I mean, this sounds kind of, cliche, I guess, because this is, I guess the comics, here's Negan, but where's Negan is my question. I mean, episode 1, we ended with him and Gabriel in the trailer, and like I suspected, looks like we're not going to see that until, like, mid-season. I don't know. Like, there's so many characters, so many storylines right now, it's just, I don't know. I don't know if we're going to see it even next week. I would doubt it. But what disappointed me is they showed in the previously on Walking Dead this week the scene where Gabriel gets in the trailer with Negan, and I'm like, we're gonna see it this episode. Sick. This is gonna be a great scene. I was all excited, and then we didn't see it. So yeah, I don't know. They kind of psyched us out there, I felt. But yeah. Anyways, we'll see that when we see it, I guess. I don't know. And Jesus and Morgan, that fight, positive. I mean, that's highlight of the season already so far. I felt like that was a great scene, and just two great fighters, coming together and in that fight, and also some big development with Morgan there as well. Kingdom Group, the time split sort of scenes they use, they kind of splice scenes together to explain that story. I felt like that was very well done. I actually really enjoyed that they didn't just, tell it outright, because they didn't actually have that much time allotted to the Kingdom's whole thing there. So I felt like that was a good way to do it, very efficient way, and I felt like it was very enjoyable as a viewer. And I mean, wow. I mean, Aaron, he's not my favorite character for this episode, but Aaron, played by Ross Marquand, his acting in this episode was amazing. I mean, it really felt like, I mean, it did not feel fake at all. It felt so authentic about him losing Eric. And I even saw a little bit on The Talking Dead, just to the first commercial, and he was actually like almost tearing up when the actor who plays Eric, talking about him leaving the show. And I feel like, a lot of these actors, they develop real bonds. If they, they're, kind of dating on the show, they develop these real bonds, and it continues, for all after the show as well. And I feel like that's definitely, Ross McCord and the guy who plays Eric. I forget his name at this point, but yeah, so really great acting there. I just wanted to say that I felt like it was very, very authentic, and that's just what made that scene all more emotional, right, for the viewers there for sure. So yeah, that's kind of what went into the rating. Favorite character for this one is Daryl Dixon. Yeah, I bet we haven't heard that full name in a while. Obviously played by Norman Reedus. I like the way he's doing things. I think it's a little bit ruthless, but I like it. I like the way I didn't love the way he shoots Morales because I wanted him to live a little bit longer, but he's right. I mean, it doesn't matter, right? It's war. Anyone who's it's a we versus them sort of thing, right? I mean, if, they're not with us, they're dying, sort of thing. And he shoots the guy at the very end there who comes out from the tree. Yeah, I mean, I don't totally agree with him, but I think he's a total badass. I think this was a great episode for him and Rick. I mean, I should really put them both as favorite characters because they both did a great job. And Norman Reedus' acting just impeccable. I mean, like, he's insane. Him and Andrew Lincoln kind of are the highlights, but there's so many other good actors as well. I mean, the whole cast is great, right? So yeah, I mean, great episode from him for sure. And we're seeing the crossbow already this season. Some people complained about that last season. You know, how he was trapped there for a bit, and then the second half of season 7, he didn't use it that much. So we're seeing that again this season, which is good for those fans, for sure. So, anyways, and another thing, I can just bring this up now, Riding with Norman Reedus, like I mentioned in the beginning, I'm going to be doing a review for that, so please stay tuned if you want to see that. And I'd just like to congratulate Norman on getting a season 2 for that show. Like I said, season 1 didn't really pique my interest that much, but season 2, I mean, just to get another season is pretty cool, and that just tells fans, that are not fans, but the creators, I guess, that people really love Norman Reedus and that whole Daryl character. And again, we have to remember Daryl's not in the comics. I mean, this is literally just a TV show character that they made. So yeah, pretty crazy that story as well. But that's that's kind of for another time, I guess. But yeah. Anyways, so Riding with Norman Reedus, check it out. It's with Jeffrey D. Morgan, who plays Negan. That's the main reason I'm checking it out. I think it'll be really cool. And yeah. So, anyways, that just about does it for this video. Sorry about this one being a little bit long. It got a little chatty. But anyways, yeah. So least favorite out of the 3 so far, but still a very good episode. Some great positives, but some negatives as well. So, rip Morales, rip Eric as well, and rip some of the saviors, or a lot of the saviors that died this episode as well. So yeah, thanks for watching this video. Thank you so much for the recent support on the channel. It's been growing so fast. Really appreciate it, and especially the support on my last review for The Walking Dead last week. Really appreciate that as well. So, anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week for The Walking Dead Season 8, Episode 4.